Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with If I Could Choose Only One Recording by Artist X to present to the evil god Cancrozans, who wants to destroy all of classical music, but for one recording per artist. Oh my God, it would have to be Work P. Well, what is Work P and who is Artist X? Artist X is Pierre Boulez, the great, late, controversial Pierre Boulez. And Work P is Debussy's Image, the triptych, Ronde de Printemps, Gigue, and, of course, Iberia, his first recording with the Cleveland Orchestra from 1967. That was a revelation. You know, Boulez had a wonderful relationship with the Cleveland Orchestra. His career as a conductor was fostered by George Szell, who admired him as a composer and welcomed him as a conductor in Cleveland during his tenure in the 1960s, and really gave Boulez a leg up, a major leg up, because Boulez was not a great conductor when he started out. I mean, some would argue he was not a great conductor when he ended, but he was. He really was. He was a marvelous conductor. A brilliant musician in many, many ways, whether you like his music or don't like his music or like his theories or don't like his theories. I mean, that's all irrelevant. The audible results, reveal that he was of his type, a tremendous musician. And learning to be a conductor takes a certain amount of work. And we've talked about previously how orchestras deserve much of the credit for what the conductor does, a lot of the credit. And there was no orchestra better suited to realize his intentions back in the days before he was able to realize his intentions than the Cleveland Orchestra under George Szell. Because first of all, Szell was extremely particular about everything. And he was always anxious to be sure that the orchestra was on its absolute best behavior when guest conductors came to play in Cleveland. He wanted them to perform exactly as they would for him. No matter how bad that conductor might be, no matter what that conductor might do or say, they had to retain that Cleveland sound, which was a chamber music-like clarity of texture, accurate rhythms, beautiful balances, amazing intonation. Boulez was known as the French correction in New York. He would spend a whole rehearsal just tuning the harp. He had an amazing ear for sonority and texture. He was not a line guy. He was a chord guy, and he could balance chords and do things like that, and would spend acres of time on nonsense. Well, he would, apparently. I didn't attend any of his rehearsals, so I wouldn't know myself, but that's what I've heard, and that's what I know from people who did attend those rehearsals. So, yeah, and he was quite persnickety. But it's one thing to be persnickety and have very strong opinions about what you should be doing, and quite another thing to be able to communicate those opinions to the 100+ people in the orchestra who were supposed to be realizing them. So with Cleveland, he was able to do that, and he made, arguably, many of his best recordings. I think really most of his best recordings were made there. Remember, at the same time, he was conducting the BBC Symphony and recording for Sony, doing a lot of second Viennese stuff and very difficult music and Bartók and other things. And those recordings tend to be kind of soggy and not as disciplined, but the Cleveland stuff, well, there is a difference. Remember that standout Rite of Spring, for example, which was just amazing. So it really is important to have a mating of the orchestra and the conductor. And in this case, with Debussy's Image, what a revelation this disc was. It was astounding. Why? Because there is absolutely no impressionist fog anywhere. Not even where Debussy wants impressionist fog, as in Le Parfum de la Nuit, the middle movement of Iberia. There is such crystalline clarity throughout, a hardness to the sound, an edge to the sound. I don't mean an edge like scruffy playing edge. I mean edge like everything is illuminated as if with a highlighter. I mean, every click of the castanets in Iberia, or the swoosh of the cymbals in a Ronde de Printemps, or the clicky thing of the harp, or the oboes. It's just astonishing how wonderfully clean and clear Debussy sounds in these performances, and I just adore them. I mean, some people say Boulez is very cold and intellectual and cerebral, and yes, he is. He is cold and intellectual and cerebral. There's no question about that. But this music is not about people particularly. I mean, it's not. Yes, there's mourning on the day of a festival in Iberia, but the topic is not the people celebrating the festival. It's mourning. It's the day, and it's the day. I mean, it's these are landscapes, scenarios about nature and atmosphere and whatnot, and they sound so modern in these performances. The tradition of Debussy up to Boulez really was to relate him almost to the more romantic school as a sort of late Wagnerian, appendix to Romanticism, post-Wagnerian appendix, some sort of appendix. But with Boulez, you don't hear that. With Boulez, you hear Debussy the modernist, Debussy the revolutionary worker in texture. You hear the relationship to Boulez's own music, of course, which was enormously influenced by Debussy. And so it's just an amazing performance of Iberia. And when he remade it later in his life for Deutsche Grammophon, he redid all the Debussy orchestral works in Cleveland. Some of them were marvelous. Some of them were better than his earlier versions. La Mer, for example, was better. But some of them weren't quite as good. And the Images were not quite as good. They were very good. I mean, they were still recognizably the same guy. But here, somehow, everything just came together to realize a personal and really compelling and interesting view of the music by a conductor who really loved his Debussy and Ravel. I mean, he really did, and conducted them with enormous persuasiveness, and none better than in this Cleveland Orchestra Sony. It's on Sony Classical recording of Images. It's absolutely amazing, and so that's the one I pick. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.